What's up, YouTube? Great time to be a Yu-Gi-Oh fan. I mentioned the last video I did here on this Blue Eyes deck profile, and yeah, I mean, first regional I ever won 2016 when Blue Eyes Spirit came out, so I was really pumped about this. We got a hopefully awesome ban list coming out, and then this structure deck pretty soon afterwards. So the last deck profile I showed was something that I'm pretty sure a lot of people have seen already, pretty much utilizing Dragon's Ravine and Ancient Fairy Dragon to send Chaos Max to the graveyard. So nothing really new. Something I'm going to show something new that I kind of saw a little bit, but I kind of tweaked and made my own is this version of the deck, which I like better. Again, I'm at 45 cards with both versions, and I just don't think, for how much I've been testing with ratios and test hands here in Omega, I think any more than 45 cards was very bricky and just did not give you guaranteed combo. If there's more, I mean, this deck has enough starters for sure, it has enough extenders, but if there's no more ways to get to your starters, I would run it. But the only ways that I found on, maybe if someone else found something, they can leave a comment here below, but the only extenders, or not extenders, but I guess extenders, but ways to get to your starter that I found was Bingo Time Machine, because really you're getting to your starter with Prayers of White, and then Bingo can add prayers. So running a third one, I don't think is going to help go into 50 cards. I think 45 is kind of where you want to be at with this deck. The only thing I think you could argue to do instead with this deck is not main the crossouts and then main the hand traps, but it's just, I don't know, like, I'd rather take the chance of winning the dice roll and going first, and then being protected through hand traps. Like I mentioned in my other video, this deck is very vulnerable to hand traps. I mean, it's not Brick Eyes anymore. It combos very well. It makes a crazy end board, but it's probably more vulnerable to hand traps than most decks I play. Like compared to like playing Vanadium, Snake Eyes, anything like that, this deck's gonna be a lot more vulnerable to hand traps. But you can play through stuff. You can play through Effect Velo's Ashes, Impervs, but playing through a Nib or a Shifter is just gonna be pretty much impossible, right? So the big differences with this deck, just getting into it right away, is got the 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons. I love the different arts. I actually think I have these 3 cards myself, so in these different versions. So that's what I'll probably enjoy playing. In this version of the deck, you definitely do need Blue Eyes Abyss. Since I'm not running Dragon's Ravine or a way to dump Chaos Max, you need Abyss, and you need a special hit to get Chaos Max to your hand. If not, then you're not going to get into Magia. Also, with this version of the deck not having Ravine, you don't really have a way to get Magia onto the field before the 5 summons, so it's a lot more vulnerable to Nib than the other version of the deck. That's why I could see it be more justifiable to run with Dragon's Ravine, because if you combo right and get the right cards in your hand, you can pretty much get Magia in the field before the 5th summon, which is going to really help you have protection for Nib if you don't have Crossout in your hand already, right? But like I said, I like this one. I'll kind of go over why, the flexibility you have in the extra deck, why I like this one better. Chaos, the rest of the deck is pretty much the same. I think the only main differences was 3 Blue Eyes. You know, the same starters. You need 3 Sage with Eyes of Blue. The 1 Extender Master of Eyes you need it for full combo. 3. So like the new cards is obviously the 3 Maiden and the 3 Neo Kaizo Seahorse. So in this version of the deck, Neo Kaizo Seahorse, I can this is, so again, why you can afford to not run Dragon's Ravine and still make Magia is you can get Chaos Max to the graveyard off of Neo Kaizo Seahorse. If you don't open him, there's no way to search him, unfortunately. But like unlike Prayers, you can search, either Sage or Maiden or your extender right here, or Master of Eyes of Blue. But also the other way you're guaranteed in your combo, you're going to be able to get out Abyss. So you can special summon out Abyss either with Sage's effect in the graveyard. I mean, in your hand, not in graveyard, in your hand. So you're adding back. Once you use Sage on the field, you're adding it back off of Master of Eyes Blue, and then using its effect in the hand to special out Blue Eyes Abyss. Or also you can use Saga of Blue Eye Dragon, the new card that's coming out, to special out Abyss, because it's any Blue Eyes monster if you control another Blue Eyes. So if you don't have a Blue Eyes on the field, you have to special summon the Blue Eyes. But the fact that this card brings back a Blue Eyes from graveyard or banished, face up banished, is huge too. So that's pretty much the same. The other thing that's same is the hand trap lineup. I didn't change that at all. 3 effect veil are the most important one, just because you can use it as synchro material and you can search it. So even if you have all your extenders and starters, everything you need in your hand, when you're adding a light one tuner off of prayers, you can add an effect veiler to be prepared for your opponent's turn to interrupt with them, which is huge. Ash, again, just 2 Ash, 2 Nib, just mainly as crossout targets, and in case I lose the dice roll, and have to go have to go second, sorry. So I'm always going to choose to go first, but this is a going first deck, if that's not cleared already. Blue Eyes, maybe in the other versions of decks where you're like playing like 2 or 3 Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, you'd be like, I want to go second to break boards. I've done that in Master Duel, but now this is a going first deck because you're putting up a lot of negates, right? And you want to go first for sure. So for the rest of the hand traps, obviously, again, the 3 Mokshami. Running more than 3 of these, if I run 2 of this one, I just think, I say it's going to be too bricky. If I kind of made it more of a going second deck and got up to like 50 cards or 60 cards, I would definitely run 3 of each, but I think I think it's good enough at this. You can put in the other 2, so I have the third one. This is obviously the new Mokshami is going to be the most important one because it adds a card, draws a card after special summons. This is just when it's special or normal summon from a hand, so not going to come up as much as the new one that hasn't come out yet. And like before, I talked about 3 prayers with Eyes of Blue. Most important new card coming out, spell card other than Maiden. Maiden and prayers with Eyes of Blue. Just those 2 additions alone makes this deck way more consistent and an actual meta deck. But having Neo, Kaiser, and Saga on top of that are huge. 2 Bingo. Again, I wouldn't go more than 2. I think more than 2 is, most of the time you're searching these in your combo anyways, but running Bingo just gives you that extra consistency, and I think it's huge being at 2, because sometimes I've opened up hands where I've only had him in hand plus all hand traps, and then just plus a Bingo got me to prayers, and then prayers got me full combo. So I think it's important having 2 for sure. 1 wasn't enough when I test played with 1. I wasn't seeing it, and I still was kind of bricking like maybe every 3 or 4 hands. I think this is great having it 2. 3 of the Saga for sure. That's special summoning of Blue Eyes. It does come in handy. Sometimes you don't need it, and you can don't have to search it, and it's more important to search the Ultimate Fusion. But it definitely is going to be one of your extenders, your main extenders for sure. This is usually you want to set this off of True Light for sure, or set obviously prayers if you don't have prayers already. Ultimate Fusion is what you're usually going to add off of prayers or for Bingo Time Machine. And in this version, I do run 3 just because I'm running a more fusion heavy version of the deck, and I might change something with the extra deck to make it more fusion heavy, which I'll talk about in a second here. But 3 I think is great for this hand. Plus, if I see 1 in hand already, I'm searching on the combo, then I can right away have a good chance. Because sometimes with this deck, I can make Magia before the 5th summon if I open up Kaiser Seahorse, which is great, right? And then Mausoleum White, and these 2 are necessity for sure. In Vanadium, I played some versions of it where you don't need Synchro Rumble and you're not running Crimson, but in this deck you absolutely need Synchro Rumble. I mean, just being able to add another tuner back as an extra body to tag for Master of Eyes, or just use as synchro material is huge. And Mausoleum is what you're searching off the new Link 1, giving you that extra normal summon, which your extra normal summon is usually going to be Master with Eyes of Blue. And then being able to send a Blue Eyes to the graveyard is great. This is also great. A lot of test playing I've done, it's great for going second when you're ready to finish your opponent off, because if you basically have this on the field still, and then again, this is why I like this version of the deck, because keeping this on the field is huge. Not getting rid of this and going to Dragon's Ravine, this is great, because when you're ready to finish your opponent off, if they made someone of board, you can then tag, because if they break your board, you're probably still going to be left with Magia. Magia's kind of hard to out. I mean, 5,000 attack, and it negates 3 cards. Or you're going to be ended with Blue Eyes Alternative Ultimate Dragon if you lost him out and went into him. or maybe even Blue Eye Spirit. But you're going to be ending with one of these main boss monsters with the alternative ultimate Magia or the new Blue Eyes Ultimate Fusion, and just being able to use Mausoleum to tag one of these to send a Blue Eyes. That's already giving you the extra attack, right? So then it's going to boost him up to almost 6,000 attack, which is insane. Right? So I'd rather not. I mean, if my opponent's got the Lightning Storm, the Harpies, and gets rid of it, fine. But I don't really want to out this on my own. The only way you can kind of cycle this back is if you banished it in the other version, is by running Bestial, by running Dispatter, which Dispatter you can make with Blue Eyes plus Kaiser Seahorse. Which actually, so, and then plus you need a sync rope is Kaiser to tag when the sync goes to make an 8. But it's just, like I said, I did test play with running Dispatter in here. And again, the problem is he's not searchable. If he was searchable and you had a guaranteed way to get him in your combo, then it makes sense to run Dispatter. And also, you're not really banishing. The only way you'll be banishing lights and darks to your graveyard is if you're using Neo's ultimate and your opponent targets something and you banish it to protect one of the Blue Eyes monsters from targeting. But that's it, right? That's, you know, so it's not going to come up enough that I don't think Dispatter's any good. Like, same thing with like another extra deck monster I was thinking about was Red Nova, which is, well, not that one. Oh yeah, it's Red Supernova. Yeah, banishing the whole field is crazy, and then you could bring it back off with Dispatter. But again, like, you know, you got much better synchros. I mean, you know, an Omni Negate, protecting the whole field plus a Monster Negate. I mean, I think these are way better between these two, and these are your two Crimson targets right there. And then plus Blue Eyes Ultimate's not a Crimson target, that's a Spirit target. Right? For the rest of the deck, the one card again that's maybe not not needed, but I like it, is the Chaos Form. I mean, Blue Eyes Chaos Max was always one of my favorite Blue Eyes cards. I wish I would have had it back in 2016 when I won my first regional with Blue Eyes Spirit and running, you know, Sage back then, and then, you know, running all the stones, which I'm glad to see I don't have to run the stones in here, having to wait a turn because the game's much faster now. But I just love seeing that this card is like amazing now in the meta, and just being able to add, you know, Maiden of White or Master with Eyes of Blue is great. I never played this card in the old version of the deck for sure, because it hasn't been this. What's made this card good is you know, being able to add back the Sage and then tagging him. So when you use Sage to tag to target Maiden, use Maiden's effect to special summon him back that when he goes to the graveyard, and then you get out a free Blue Eyes, which usually at that point it'll be Blue Eyes Abyss to add the Chaos Form plus Max. So at the very least, running Chaos Form, just one of it, you're gonna get in your combo when you get in Blue Eyes Abyss. So you can always use it as discard material, but also, like I said, having your hand plus getting Chaos Max back in your hand is crazy. Like, you know, that's for follow-up, you know, to kill your opponent next turn. And then the last hand trap I kind of covered before, one Imperv, just as a cross-out target. The fact that I got Maiden 3 Effect Veil and 1 Imperv, you know, they're not once per turn, so I think that's great. If anything I changed with this main deck, I'd try to fit in another Imperv, but I just, like I said, I have not found a build of this deck where more than 45 is good. I mean, maybe I could go 2 Imperv and then 3 Bingo Time Machine, and it might be good, but I'm kind of liking the way that this deck's running for now, that I kind of want to stick at 45. 45 has kind of always been my magic number in TCG anyways, so that's what this deck's going to be for, is TCG. And then the crossouts, I talked already, crossouts called by decks very vulnerable to hand traps, so you need them for sure. Hopefully they don't get banned, you know, cross the fingers there, but this deck was going to lose bad to hand traps for sure, especially Nib and Dimension Shifter, and Droll in certain situations can shut down. Even in certain situations, one Ash Blossom could shut it down. 1 or 2 Effect Veilers and Impervs, you can kind of play through them, but the Ash and the Rights, if your hand's all hand traps plus just 1 prayers, Ash is going to kill you, because you have to discard for cost, then you add. So if they Ash you after you use prayers, yeah, you're kind of screwed. And then the last trap is going to be the True Light. I talked about before, I've never seen a build with more than 1, and you don't need it. The only reason you need more than 1, I guess you could maybe side 1 in case you're playing someone that plays in Cosmic Cyclones, but Yeah, I don't think you definitely need more than one, because you can cosmic. I mean, if it's True Light, you can add back when it's in the graveyard. You can set it to the field when Maiden is sent to graveyard from hand or field, and so it can be in your deck, hand, or graveyard, which is insane. So this card is just freaking. I mean, out of all these cards that came out, Maiden's probably the best one, but really the deck wouldn't work without both these. Prayers plus Maiden is what makes it huge. So for extra deck, lots of changes here. Again, the one thing I'm not sure about is Spirit with Eyes of Blue. I don't think you need two. I'm just running two just because it might come up with the grind game. If anything, what I might run two of is two of the Tyrant Dragon, because the Tyrant is what's let you cycle back any dragon. So you can cycle back the Cypher. I mean, Cosmic, I don't think you're ever going to need to, because you get it off the field before they will destroy it anyway. So him, you're never going to, but you can use it to cycle back the Stardust or any of these dragons you need. Blue-Eyed Spirit, maybe one of the Magias, or the ultimate Spirit Dragon. And then Crimson, obviously, you're never really cycling back unless you got really hard stopped in your combo, because that cycles itself back. So this I might consider two of, but I think right now I'm just running one. And then here running the Neo's Blue Eyes Ultimate. So this is what I would attach off of. So when I banish Prayers, instead of attaching Blue Eyes Ultimate, I actually would rather attach Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate. So there's a glitch with Omega where they don't recognize the fact that Magia needs 3 Blue Eyes, and they think it just needs the Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. So that's why I have to run the Blue Eyes Ultimate in here. But really, remember, Magia, it says Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon or 3 Blue Eyes. Now in this deck, in this combo, you're easily getting 3 Blue Eyes monsters on the field and in your graveyard. You're getting a lot more than 3. I mean, you're getting like 3 Blue Eyes Spirits in the graveyard in your first turn. So you can just shuffle them all back plus Chaos Max to make Magia, which is great because that's, not having to run this card. I mean, the OG Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon that's a vanilla, it's not really helping you at all. Like, just having him on his own, you're never going to hard make him. So if you're running a more heavy synchro version of this deck, then obviously just running him just to have him for an easy discard, an easy guarantee into Magia is great. But I just, like I said, I'm going to cut this card for sure and probably run 2 Neos, if not 3 Blue Eyes. So what I'm going to do is then use Prayers to attach the Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon to the Blue Eyes, and then when you synchro summon, so that way I already have target protection in the graveyard. Also, this is your OTK machine too, so if you're going second and you wipe your opponent's board out with Nib, then you basically just make you hard make Neo's ultimate, and then send the second one and send 3, and you can attack 3 times with Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate, and that's pretty damn good, right? So that's the one thing probably change again is taking this out to have a second of this, and maybe not running 2 of this and maybe a second of Blue Eyes Tyrant, but I don't know. It's probably not going to come up enough. I mean, 3 Eyes fusions. It's not like you're going to fusion that much, but you can, because you can also fusion with the Saga as well. So it definitely would, especially running Mokshami. It's going to come up a lot where people are going to play and you're going to draw and you're going to have all 3 Blue Eyes in your hand, right? So why you don't need any of the white stones? What does they say? Blue. So I think I've seen some builds playing this. Not the White Legend. You definitely don't need that, because you never need to add Blue Eyes to your hand. You're always sending them to the graveyard off of Mausoleum, or special summoning them off of Saga, right? So you never need the White Stone. But I've seen some builds playing 1 White Stone of Ancients instead of the White Stone of Legend, just to special out a guaranteed wait for Abyss. But you don't need that, because you can special summon Abyss during your turn before end phase with Sage or with Saga. So you have enough ways to it. You don't need that. This card is just it's just not necessary. It's not necessarily a brick, but it's an extender you don't need. There's no way, right? So getting back to here to the extra deck again, two Magia, just because Magia is not only your end boss monster, but it's a way to win in the grind game. I talked about this in my other video, but being able to shuffle back 3 Blue Eyes monsters is crazy. I mean, yes. I mean, like, they're insane for making this. That if that card would have said just Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon plus a Chaos, it kind of would be like, yeah, it's a good boss monster, but it's not like as insane. What makes this card really insane, not the fact that how much attack it has, and not the fact that it's 3 negates. I mean, those are all good effects, but the thing that I don't hear enough people talking about with Magia is that you can use 3 blue eyes to make it. So it shuffles back the spirits. It will shuffle back the Neo, the alternative, whatever you need. It doesn't shuffle back Spirit with Eyes of Blue because that's not Blue Eyes monster, but you can shuffle back the Blue Eyes Abyss, so that way you can bring it out again to get Chaos Max back in your hand, right? That is freaking insane, right? Also, its other effect, which is crazy that not enough people talk about, is its second effect. Well, not second effect, but its last effect, right? Where if it is outed by your opponent, so really pay attention to this, right? Is if you summon a card like Mirror Jade, right? So let's see here. So Mirror Jade, right? Where is the part that says? Yeah, if this fusion summon card in its owner's control leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect, you can destroy all monsters your opponent controls during the end phase. So it says fusion summon. So if you bring back Mirror Jade off of like Branded Red or anything like that, it's not it's not going to work, right? Its destruction effect doesn't work. It has to be fusion summon. Now look at Dragon Magia. Its last sentence here, right? If this face-up card, so it has to be face-up, obviously it can't be Book of Moon, so that's one actual stipulation, right? But if this face-up card in its owner's control leaves the field because of an opponent's card, it doesn't say if this fusion summon card, it says if this card. So basically what that means is in the grind game too, you can like turbo between these 2 cards. So if Magia leaves and Blue Eye Spirit's in the graveyard, you can bring out Blue Eye Spirit. If they destroy, so again, Blue Eye Spirit, now again, listen to this last part. Plenty of people have talked about Blue Eye Spirit, how your opponent can't banish cards from your graveyard, so Bestials don't work, or Called by the Grave won't work when this is on the field. I wish it was insane, it said both players can't banish from the graveyard, so it'd be like, Blue Eye Spirit, neither player can special summon more than 2 cards. If it said both cards, this would be insane for stopping decks like Kashtira, or like every deck needs to like banish at some point from the graveyard. It would stop the Mirror too, stopping him from banishing prayers. That would make this card unbelievably insane. I wish they would have done that, but I guess they were trying to make this deck not that crazy. But again, being able to negate a card in the field is insane. Getting an extra 1,000 attack, but again, the most important thing that I like that no one's talking about with this card is if this card is destroyed by battle or card effect. So if it doesn't, it's not as good because this just says it leaves the field. So if they banish, if Blue Eye Spirit gets banished, right, because it can be targeted, then its effect won't go up. But if it's destroyed by battle card effect, special summon 1 light dragon monster from your graveyard. So Magia is a light dragon. You can bring out Magia. And if Magia gets outed, just bring back Blue Eye Spirit. So just keep going between the 2 of them. It's ridiculous, right? I don't see enough people. I'm gonna have to make a solo video on just talking about these 2 effects, which is insane. So last part of the deck, the rest of the synchros, again, Blue Eye Spirit Dragon, mandatory 3. You need 3. You're using all 3 your first turn, and then you want to try to cycle them all back off of Magia to be ready for them for the grind game. Crimson necessary to not only add Synchro Rumble, but to Synchro to tag into one of your 2 other big boss monsters. Cosmic's awesome. He's like, not the first choice, obviously. In this version of the deck, I want to bring out Stardust right away. So in this version of the deck, I'm trying to get all my Syncos in the field first, then go into Magia. I hardly ever go to Magia first. Magia I'm usually making during my opponent's turn with Ultimate Fusion I set, and then the Blue Eyes Chaos Max I just added to my hand off of Abyss, right? So in order to make sure I'm protected from Nib, now obviously I can get Nibbed. I'm not going to have all these cards in the field before 5 summon, so this deck's a lot more vulnerable to Nib than the other build of it. But what I like is it's not that it's more consistent, but you have more room in your extra deck to make it more of a Blue Eyes deck and not a more just like synchro climbing deck, right? And you can play these like playing a Blue Eyes deck. I cannot play a Blue Eyes deck without 3 Blue Eyes. That's awesome, and you couldn't do another version of the deck. Having 3 is insane, and then plus having this guy. I mean, these 2 will always be my favorite 2. Well, not him. These 2 right here. So put that there. So these 2 will always be my 2 favorite Blue Eyes fusions, even over Magia, is, I mean, being able to attack 3 times to OTK is insane. That's what Blue Eyes was all about, was just non-stop beat down, right? Kind of like Tempai, right? And then alternative Ultimate Dragon, I mean, just a huge towers that can't be targeted or destroyed. And you're never going to get to pop 3 in other versions of the deck where you would play the alternative Ultimate Dragon. You could pop 3 with it at the same time, but running a Blue Eyes, if I haven't talked to, which I don't think I talked about in any of the other videos, but don't ever run this. Where is it? The Blue Eyes alternative. Well, there's the fusion. Don't run this. I mean, you can't. I mean, I'm sure someone out there is going to make a video or build with running Chaos Space and, you know, to get it. I mean, if Chaos Space came back to 3, yeah, I'd probably try to fit this in with Chaos Space and the Bestials. But with Chaos Space being at 1, yeah, you don't have enough room in this deck. I mean, you could potentially make a 60-card version of this deck if Chaos Space came to 3. And running Bestials and all that would be fun, right? You know, I'd enjoy that. But until if Chaos Space still remains at 1, there's no reason to run this. But I mean, him, you know, could give you a 3 popping, you know, Blue Eyes alternative, which I used to do. But really, you would be adding him to your hand off of like Bingo Time Machine if you ran 3 of it. But yeah, there's really, you know, no point. Or Melody, if Melody would add this too. So that's something like, I'd run 3 of this if I was running a 60-card deck for sure, because that's a way to add like Leveneer and all the other Chaos Dragons, the Chaos Emperor Pendulum one, right? But said, if I was you, I would not even consider. I'm not even going to consider running any Bestial stuff unless they Chaos Space. Chaos Space comes back to 3. I'll go back to running Dragon Link as a deck too, and I'd probably, you know, figure out ways to make this a 60-card deck with running, you know, probably like lots of Mokshamis as well, like three of maybe like 3 of this one and 2 of that one, something along those lines, right? So talk about all the synchros, right? You know, he's huge. So on my end board, usually my final end board with this deck is going to be Spirit, Ultimate Dragon, plus a Blue Eye Spirit on its own, plus Stardust Cypher, right? And then and maybe another Crimson Dragon, but you know, ready to synchro summon during my opponent's turn. Right? And then what's awesome is then you have Stardust is actually protecting all your stuff from destruction. So it protect the ultimate from getting destroyed because of tributing it to bring out Blue Eye Spirit. It's going to protect True Light if they try to destroy it, and also protect Crimson too. So that's crazy. And then I'm going to have, you know, Ultimate Fusion set, and then also Abyss will be on my end board too. So then during my opponent's turn, the first thing I'm doing is really getting into Magia, Fusion Summoning, sending back all the Blue Eye Spirits, plus whatever other Blue Eyes I have in my graveyard to go into, into Magia. And then going to use if I had a good enough board, use the Crimson to tag either the Stardust or the Blue Eye Spirit to get out Cosmic. So usually after doing everything during your opponent's turn, we want to end on Magia plus Spirit Ultimate plus a Spirit plus Stardust plus Cosmic. That's a crazy board, right? So that's, you know, you got Monster, Spell, Trap, Negate right there, right? You got any on-field negate. So now we're up to four disruptions, right? And pretty much 4 negates. A graveyard negate, so 5. An Omnigate, 6 negates, and then a monster negate. So that's a 7 negate board, right? Which is freaking unbelievable. This deck definitely, it doesn't have any counter traps. I wish they would have came out with a counter trap for it, because the trap they came out with for it, and I talked about this in my other video, but this trap sucks. Whatever it is. Yeah. So, you know, show up to 3 Blue Eyes from your hand, face up your field, and destroy that many cards in the field. You're not going to really have Blue Eyes in your graveyard. I mean, you could, but it's just not going to come up enough, and you're searching enough the combo. I mean, I don't know. I might mess with this card. I tried putting it in at first because it just looks like such an amazing card, and oh my god, you know, there's awesome new Blue Eyes, you know, card, but I just don't think this card's any good. Also, its secondary effect to banish it to Ritual Summon. You don't need that because, like I said, off of Blue Eyes Abyss, you're adding Chaos Form. So, and then this this version of Ritual Summon, the cards need to be on the field, where with Chaos Form, you can have a Blue Eyes in the graveyard and Ritual Summon into max. So I just think Chaos Form is so much better than Majestic because you can add it to your hand off of Abyss, and then you can use cards, Blue Eyes in the graveyard. Way better. All right. Stay tuned. We've got some more videos coming up on this deck. Obviously, extremely pumped. Gonna make a short clip kind of talking about these two cards, and then I talked about already, and then just doing what I'm sure everyone's looking forward to is the combos and the test hands, which I've been doing pretty much the past 2 days nonstop, as this deck's just insane. I can't wait till these cards come out. Hopefully it comes out Master Duel first, because I'd love to test online with it first to be ready to play with the cards in TCG.